I think I'm live, and the only question is whether I succeeded in doing this on Instagram for the first time ever. And how do I check that? All right, stick with me while I try to do some tech issues, solving some tech issues. Am I live right now? Hey guys, the war is just getting started. I don't know if you know that. This is what we heard today from Trump. Let me see. I don't think it's working. I can't figure it out. Oh, all right. You Instagram people, you're just going to have to wait for me to catch up with you. I'm so far behind. All right. Yeah. So today, you would think that things would calm down. You would think things have calmed down. But instead, in the words of President Trump, we are just getting started. Now, actually, I would have said that anyway. Let me see if where I have my notes. For those of you who have never joined me before, this is only the second time I'm ever riding a bike while doing this because we have been sitting around the house under lockdown for the past 5 days. It's day 5 of the U.S. Israel war against Iran. And we have been in lockdown, more or less, with very little movement, a lot of spinning our wheels in one spot, and crazy things happening. So let's just get right to it because why I think that this is not going to end anytime soon. In fact, I think it has the potential to expand, which is even worse than that. I just spent the reason I'm doing this live like in 2 hours later than usual. Oh my God. Because I all day I have been writing an article about the Iranian proxies that could or could not get involved or are involved. So right now you've got the Hezbollah that stepped in and a bunch of militias in Iraq who are backed by Iran. So the Hezbollah is the big one that went in, and they started that a couple days ago on Monday, and Monday night, I think. And now we are talking about the response that the missiles that they have fired is drawing from Israel is has the potential to open a whole other front. Forget Iran for now, just Lebanon itself. Israel has already called today for the evacuation of all of southern Lebanon up until I think the Litani River. And I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of people to evacuate this entire area. So that is huge and unprecedented. And at this point, nobody's probably going to stop Israel from doing that um, because the ceasefire was broken and everybody's focus is on Iran, and so nobody's really going to be looking at that at the moment. So Hezbollah, however, what they have been firing stuff all day, and there was a lot of flurry in the media, like this big, like you know, very over exaggerated shrieking headlines saying like combined attacks Iran and Hezbollah. And actually, like, hey, of course, that could be lethal if Iran and Hezbollah are, if they say, like, hey, let's coordinate our attacks at the same time. And maybe that is what they did. But, so we got like a couple messages saying that, they're both shooting at the same time. And sure enough, now what happens is with Iran, you get the warning that a launch has been made from Iran. But as far as Hezbollah, there's no pre-warning. It's just like it's coming. You got 90 seconds or less if you're, depending where you are. So this is what I've seen so far from Hezbollah. And don't take this as this means that's all they have and whatever. But all of their weaponry, whether it's drones, maybe it's been a few missiles, it's mostly drones, they're staying in the north of the country. So it looks like they don't have the same capabilities they had during the war that was, starting with Hamas and Israel from October 7th when Hezbollah joined that. They had firepower. They had some serious stuff. So this is all fresh off the top of my head because I just wrote this article. But Hezbollah had up to 200,000 missiles and rockets when the war started, and the October 23 war. And now we don't know how much, but they appear to be very severely limited in what they have. Sorry, there's alerts right now, and it's probably Hezbollah because you could tell it's coming in the north, Hagalil. It's like up north. So I don't know. And it's also a drone. So what we're seeing now is a lot of drones. We're not seeing a lot of missiles or rockets. And so it's like a weakened firepower, I think. I mean, unless they're just saving it for another time. Maybe there's a game plan. And also this thing of the combined attacks, I feel like maybe, I don't know if that was a coincidence or if they really said, like, hey, they got on the phone, like IRGC to Hezbollah, hey guys, let's shoot rockets, like right now, 3, 2, 1, go. And I don't know, like if that was the case. But today was a more rockety day than yesterday, even for us in Jerusalem. We were down in the shelter 3 times, which is really not that bad, I have to say. However, there were 2 alerts that were either false or didn't end up coming to us. So it was very active, but in the end, there were only 3. So this is also, all right, so let's also go on. So that's Lebanon. So things are going to really escalate there, I think, because now Israel's called up troops. They have called for evacuations, and in southern Lebanon, Israel's going to go in. And, part of that has to do with the fact that there were talks. U.S. was trying to get Israel and Lebanon to come to some kind of diplomatic agreement. And part of it was like that Hezbollah would disarm. And if they don't do it themselves, that the Lebanese government would have to do that. So that was never resolved. Lebanon said they were going to do it. It hadn't been done. By the way, there's like a ton of alerts coming in right now. What is this? Whoa. Oh, they're changing the restrictions. Okay. They're saying that from tomorrow that it's possible to go to work at a place where there is a shelter, but they are not opening school. Wow, I'm surprised they're loosening the restrictions. Okay, so, because I think it's going to go the opposite direction. So Trump just said that in a press conference today, he said, we're just getting started. So the war is going to, the big, there's still big waves to come of the attacks. Like this was the initial. Now, I also heard an Iranian analyst who said, he said this thing. Did you guys hear that apparently the CIA is arming the Kurds in Iran and right outside of Iran? They're arming them to go in and to carry out an uprising. And I saw a map where it's just this little sliver. Iran's a big country, and there's 90 plus million people. So how, to be able to do regime change there, you've got to have I'm sure there's a plan. Somebody out there has a plan. I don't think people, start a war like this without a plan. But this analyst was saying that there's no way that the Kurds, and I think he said 10,000 Kurds are going to be able to go against an army of, is it 100,000 or 300,000? And he said, and also the Basij, which is like the secret police, which are all over the country, and they're in the tens of thousands. I think he said million, but I don't know. I'd have to go back and listen to exactly what he said. But in other words, the numbers just they're not even, they're not equal. So how could you expect the Kurds, no matter what kind of groundwork you prepare for them to just go through and do regime change. So anyway, that is, he said, I'm very concerned by what by the initial euphoria that people are having at the success. Of course, like for the US and for Israel, everybody's looking at it, all the announcements are success. By the way, so were the Iranians looking at this as success, because they said they killed 500 American servicemen, which I haven't found any evidence of that to be the truth. Now, Israel today is talking about the fact that they, for the first time ever, shot down an Iranian pilot. It was like plane to plane combat, and they shot down an Iranian pilot. Also, Israel is still doing wave after wave of aerial attacks on Iran. Mostly they're focusing in Tehran. They're focusing on intelligence and government sites. The U.S. seems to be focusing on the Navy, and they said they took out, there was a submarine that was taken out off the coast of Sri Lanka. So they're chipping away at the edges. And I think there are parts of Iran where Israel does have aerial superiority. Now, that being said, still don't know if they can and what they can get through. It's so, as I was saying with Hezbollah, we don't know, like, of the up to 200,000, between like 150 to 200,000 rockets and missiles that they had before starting the war or getting into the war with Israel after the Hamas October 7th attacks. We don't know exactly to what extent they wore out their weapons. And then also, since the ceasefire, which was, I think, was it 2024? It must have been 2024, in November 20. Since that ceasefire, Israel hasn't gone a day without attacking a site in Lebanon that they say is like, Hezbollah missile storage, or they do targeted assassinations of Hezbollah military. So that has been going on. We don't know how many people are left. They had 100,000 operatives. By the way, they also serve in the government. So it's not, they're part of the society. They're not necessarily accepted. There are a lot of Lebanese that don't want Hezbollah there. By the way, this was the story that I'm writing. I'm trying to finish it, but my brain today was not functioning writing wise, and I had a ton of information for this story. But there are several proxy groups, and the ones that haven't yet gotten involved are the Houthis and Hamas. So waiting to see. I don't think that Hamas is going to get involved right now. This is like maybe the first time where Gaza isn't even getting headlines at all. It's the first time in like 2.5 years that you're not hearing about Gaza. And the Houthis, what I have been able to gather is that with the Houthis, that they don't, they're having like a conflict, like internal conflict, as to whether or not they should get involved. They have condemned the attacks, and they have said that, they've threatened. Now, on the other hand, all of these other countries that are getting attacked have also condemned these attacks on their countries, like Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, and yet they've all condemned, and yet none of them have actually retaliated. So that is also quite fascinating that hasn't happened yet. So it could be that the U.S. has told them to stay out of it. Not sure about that. But anyway, so we're also waiting to see. Iran said we're going to very quickly appoint a new Ayatollah, and the leading candidate is the son of the Ayatollah. Although now I'm hearing reports that he was actually killed or severely injured. So I don't really know what's true on that front either. But these are the things that we're all waiting to find out. Um, what else? So the Iran is oh yeah, so thank you for reminding me about that. That Iran also launched. So Iran is just kind of like throwing everything like in every direction, and they also just launched one. I talked yesterday about Cyprus, but they did that through Lebanon, probably Hezbollah. They also just launched one at Turkey, and it was shot down by Americans, actually. So now Turkey, which is now a member of NATO, might also get involved. So I have to tell you, like, people are saying, like, oh, how is this different from the 12-day war with, that you went like back in June when it was just Israel and just Iran for 12 days, and it was like massive rockets, and it was pretty tense, and it was extremely intense. And I said, you know what, this time it's less intense, but it's more apocalyptic, because now it involves the whole region. It involves like over a dozen countries, and it could, I mean, and also not just one continent, because now we're talking about Europe. Now we're talking NATO. And of course, we're talking about North America, because guess what? America is here. The American Armada has traveled around the globe to get here to set up in the waters to go after the Navy, to set up its jets to go aerial. And anyway, it's like, so there are so many countries involved right now, and that's why it feels a little bit apocalyptic. Iran also says it's taken over the Strait of Hormuz right now, and they have complete control over that. So this is like all over the place right now. And with Trump saying that we're just getting started. And also, I've been thinking about this, we, we hear like the Western like take on the war is that Israel is talking about, like, okay, we assassinated Khamenei on the first day. We had great intelligence. We have this bank of targets. We have aerial superiority. We're very successful in bombing these key places. America as well. Look at they're saying, I think they said that I don't know if they sank 11 ships, or in any case, they took out 11 ships plus the submarine. We heard this too. And so this is what we're hearing, all these great reports from the West, like for the Westerners, they're saying, look what we've done, look what we've done. Now, Iran is a big country with a long history, and we can't really know or understand what their full capabilities are, despite the fact that there is this thing going around, the Iranian missile counter, and apparently gets updated. Like, you see the number of missiles like in their stockpile go down with every attack. I do not know if this is accurate. But what is probably more accurate, the other thing that's going out there, is the shower meter, where you put in your location and how long you usually take a shower and what products you use, and then it will tell you what is the safety ratio for you to jump in the shower right now. Like, in other words, if there's an impending attack, like, not a good time to go now. Or if it's going to take you that long, your odds are you're going to get caught in the shower. If you take a quicker shower, you can get out faster. I mean, that's pretty insane, if not hilarious. And so these are the kind of things that are actually going around right now. The other thing that's going around is abject boredom. So no school, right? So the kids are home, and if you saw the video I did this morning, a very quick one with an update of the news overnight, I said that out of sheer boredom, my kids dyed their hair red. And I can't even stop them at this point. Now that they think it's okay to do whatever they want with their hair, they're actually practicing cutting each other's hair. like and even with the razor, like my son and his friend just now have like razor edged their hair like this. And it was perfect because one of them did such a bad job that it was like this. And I was like, oh, great. So this one is like this. And my son's hair is like all just razored under. So it's this big puffball. And I was like, that's awesome. This one looks like the trajectory of a missile. And the other one looks like an atomic bomb cloud, like a mushroom cloud. I was like, perfect, guys. Wow. Like how the subconscious creeps into what you're doing with your hair. It's absolutely insane. So anyway, so they're going to have no hair left by the end of this war. Now, here's the last thing I'm going to say is that the news tonight, I was watching the news, the Israeli news here, and I wasn't really watching. I had it on in the background because I was trying to finish this article that I'm talking about the militias or the proxies and who's going to get involved in this war. And then I get to the end, the very end, and I talk about burying the lead. The military reporter gets on and he's like, yeah, there's all the victories and this and that, whatever. But you should really prepare yourselves for the next few days because we can't really know how intense it's going to get. But just make sure you're prepared. And I'm like, should I be reading between the lines there? Make sure you're prepared because you're barking victory all day long. And then suddenly you say that, like you should be prepared for what? Like it's about to get worse. Like you just said, everything was great. We're winning. We're doing great. I mean, I'm not saying we're winning. I'm saying this is what he was saying. So I was like, okay, I don't understand that. Like, why now are we talking about being prepared? And of course, Trump saying that the bigger waves are yet to come. But think about it. Like I said, a country of 90 million, a long-standing, historic nation, also a system that has been embedded in for nearly 50 years, and a very wide-ranging secret police that is all over the country. I think that it's not something you topple with just a couple of runs. Even the 12-day war, Israel was hitting targets, and then the U.S. came in the end, and they aimed for some nuclear targets. And you didn't see the regime topple. In fact, you saw the regime double down and arrest people and execute alleged collaborators and things like that. So I have to say, like, we're only 5 days in. So I can't imagine what has to go into actually making the desired change. And I don't know, and I can't speak for these governments of what their desired change is. Now, I do know that the Iranians play by a different rule book and they have a different mentality. So what in the end is going to determine how we end this, I think we have no idea, but I do believe we are in for a ride. So on that note, I'm going to end it. It got late here before I decided to do this live, and I'm going to try to get some sleep before the next siren. So thank you very much for joining. I would ask you to sign up or subscribe on Facebook and on YouTube, and get my lives, join my lives. It's always fun to have the conversation. And also my Substack, which is linked in the description. If you can support my work on my Substack account. So thank you very much for joining.